What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So tonight marks the day we finally get what we've been looking for. Unification bout, mega fight tonight, and Blue Blood Sports TV final fight prediction. With that said, we're going to have undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Errol "The Truth" Spence Jr., who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, as he takes on WBA, World Boxing Association, welterweight world champion, Cuban star boxer, Yordenis Ugas. Yordenis Ugas is 27 wins, 4 losses, no draw, 12 wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age at 5'9" with a 69-inch arm reach. Errol Spence is 27 wins as well, but he has no losses and no draws at 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach, and he's a southpaw. Yordenis Ugas is an orthodox fighter. With that said, you can clearly see that Yordenis Ugas in 31 fights is not a big puncher with only 12 knockouts. And Errol Spence in 27 fights has 21 knockouts. With that said, here go my final fight prediction and why I predict the fight in the manner I predicted, okay? We're going to have a southpaw in Errol Spence, who's a natural, big, hungry, strong southpaw. And then we're going to have Yordenis Ugas, coming from that Cuban school of boxing. It's technically sound, very sharp, accurate with his punches, but the key is he gets inaccurate at times, right? With that said, Yordenis Ugas is known as somebody that has the key to solve the southpaw puzzle, okay? Yordenis Ugas has beaten out of 7 fights with 7 southpaws, he's 6-1, okay? So Yordenis Ugas has been known to solve and settle the southpaw riddle, okay? And so with that said, Errol Spence, though, he fights predominantly orthodox fighters, as they're just more orthodox fighters in the sport of boxing. And obviously, Errol Spence, he gets dominant when he fights orthodox fighters and all fighters. Chris Van Heerden is a southpaw fighter that's big, that Errol Spence fought, and he stopped Chris Van Heerden, right? So with that said, southpaws is nothing new to Errol Spence, as it's nothing new, obviously, to Yordenis Ugas. As Yordenis Ugas, he's being considered as the southpaw dominer, okay? He could solve the riddle of the southpaw puzzle. But in this fight, we know Yordenis Ugas, 3 of his fights came when he was just under 20 fights in his career, okay? He started off his career 15-3. That was very early in his career. Then he went on a run, and his only loss was 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter, in which many people thought that Yordenis Ugas should have been successful in that fight. He should have gotten a nod, but he just simply did not get the nod in the fight, okay? Many people felt like Yordenis Ugas, he won that fight against Showtime Shawn Porter, okay? Now, that was back in March of 2019. And then in September of that same year, Errol Spence, he fought Shawn Porter. And he fought a very tough fight with Shawn Porter. But in the 10th round, he dropped Shawn Porter, and then he clearly separated himself in the 11th and 12th round to walk away with a decision and unifying the belts. Yordenis Ugas' opportunity was Shawn Porter WBC title that Shawn Porter beat Danny Swift Garcia for the vacant WBC title that was stripped of Keith Thurman, who beat Danny Garcia. And then Shawn Porter, he ended up fighting Errol Spence. He lost the belts to Errol Spence, but he first defended it against Yordenis Ugas, and Yordenis Ugas lost a split decision to Shawn Porter. But those other losses was back in 2014. He lost a unanimous decision to Mary Mom, okay? Many people thought he won that fight. He lost before that to Emmanuel Robles. That was in 2014 as well, a split decision. And then the other one was 2012 when he lost to Johnny Garcia, another split decision. So all of his losses should have been split decisions. Now, Amir Khan, he won via unanimous decision, but I thought that it was a much closer fight than that. Okay, and the Shawn Porter decision, split decision. Okay, the Robles fight, split decision. and the Johnny Garcia fight, split decision. So all his losses were very, very close, including the Shaw and Porter fight. Okay, and so with that said, he then goes on to fight Mike Dallas. He gets the 7th round stoppage. Okay, Abel Ramos, he wins a split decision against Abel Ramos. Okay, but against Abel Ramos in the 12th round, he was hurt and wobbled in the 12th round. Looked like Abel Ramos was getting ready to stop Yordenis Ugas, but nonetheless, he weathered the storm. Then Yordenis Ugas, he faced off against legendary 8th division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, August 21st of 2021, in replacement of Errol Spence Jr. Okay, and he dominates Manny Pacquiao and wins a unanimous decision, clearly outclassing Manny Pacquiao, winning 9 rounds to 3, in my opinion. Some may say 8 rounds to 4, but I don't even think it was close. He dominated Manny Pacquiao. So with that said, that started to get the ball rolling for Yordenis Ugas and Errol Spence. Errol Spence had to be replaced because he suffered a broken or detached retina in 2 weeks before the fight. So he had to be replaced because he was supposed to be the opponent for Manny Pacquiao, supposed to be a passing of the torch, and it's supposed to be, you know, his securing his legacy and fighting a legend. But he was unable to do it. Now that leads us to this fight. Everybody wants to see Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. That makes for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. But first, Errol Spence has to get past this test. Now you see Ishmael Silas, the trainer of Yordenis Ugas, right? He stated that Errol Spence suffering that broken detached retina, he's not going to be able to survive. His eye is not going to hold up. He suffered a horrific car accident, 14 months layoff, came back after the Shawn Porter fight and fought Danny Garcia with a 14-month layoff and dominated Danny Garcia. And now Errol Spence says his eye is even healthier than it was ever before. So it's listed as Yordenis Ugas at 69-inch arm reach, Errol Spence is 72. Errol Spence at 5'9.5", Yordenis Ugas at 5'9". But it looks more when they're standing next to each other like Yordenis Ugas is slightly taller than Errol Spence, and his arm reach and his arms don't look much shorter than Errol Spence Jr. But with that said, Ishmael Silas, he says his accuracy, his size, his strength, and his heart is going to see him victorious in this fight against Errol Spence, and he don't believe Errol Spence's eye is going to hold up. Well, I don't believe that Yordenis Ugas is going to be able to hold up to the physicality of Errol Spence Jr. I think that Errol Spence Jr. in the first 5 rounds is going to have to get used to the timing, the size, the ability, the ring IQ, the ring savviness, the slickness of Yordenis Ugas at times, and the combination punches of Yordenis Ugas in the first 5 rounds. But after that, I believe that Errol Spence Jr. is going to start to gauge the distance, start to gauge the timing, start to understand what he needs to do. He has a chip on his shoulder because everybody is dismissing Errol Spence and saying he's not the same guy. Even Ishmael Silas, the trainer, saying he's not the same guy that fought Shawn Porter. He's a completely different guy that fought Danny Garcia. And his eye injury is going to affect him as well as their lingering effects from the car accident. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe that once he starts to get very physical with Yordenis Ugas, understand that Yordenis Ugas may not have the power to hurt Errol Spence Jr. I think Errol Spence after the 5th, 6th round is going to start applying some serious pressure mentally and physically on Yordenis Ugas that Yordenis Ugas is not used to. Yordenis Ugas is not going to be able to keep Errol Spence off of him. And in the 9th round, Errol Spence is going to get a stoppage victory over Yordenis Ugas. Errol Spence is going to go to the body. He's going to change levels. He's going to get very physical, just like he did with Special K, Kell Brook, former IBF welterweight world champion, who has a lot of similarities to Yordenis Ugas. Kell Brook was at 5'9" with a 69-inch arm reach, big, strong, strapping welterweight. He gave Errol Spence problems in the first half of the fight, but in the 11th round, ultimately, Errol Spence, he got the stoppage victory over Special K, Kell Brook, broke his over the bone. I think you're going to see that version of Errol Spence that has found a newfound love and dedication to the sport of boxing. Errol Spence, who is, committed to the sport of boxing, who has a nutritionist now, never had a nutritionist before, has been training for months not just entering a weight loss camp for his upcoming fight. Found a newfound love for the sport and appreciation for what the sport provides him and his family outside of the sport. And I believe Errol Spence, hearing all the rumors and hearing the reports and hearing all the chatter that he ain't the same guy, his eye ain't gonna hold up. He ain't the same guy from the injury. He got a slur in his speech. He ain't the same guy. Yordenis Ugas is going to win this fight. Without those two incidents, without those two setbacks in Errol Spence's career, would Yordenis Ugas even be considered a factor in this fight? So Errol Spence, he feels slighted, and there's a chip on his shoulder and a point to prove. And he wants to achieve what he set out to achieve. And I believe Errol Spence get a 9th round stoppage victory over Yordenis Ugas tonight. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all in one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.